Is human behavior driven by irrational feelings, intuitions, or instincts? Or does reason and logic provide direction in our lives? Is science irrelevant to truly understanding human nature? Or should we explore our own subjective experiences as a means of discovering human nature? Friedrich Nietzsche had definite opinions on these and other questions. Friedrich Nietzsche, now on the philosophical roots of psychology. Nietzsche was born in Germany in 1844. When Nietzsche was 1 year old, the United States annexed Texas. He was the son of a Lutheran minister. His father died when Friedrich was only 5. Friedrich was raised by his mother, sister, aunt, and grandmother. By the age of 10, Friedrich had written several plays and composed some musical pieces. At age 24, he began to teach ancient languages and thought at the University of Basel. When Nietzsche was 33, the first working phonograph was invented by Thomas Edison. Nietzsche died in 1900. Nietzsche's thoughts reflect the movements of Romanticism and existentialism. Both of these traditions of Western thought were a reaction against the Enlightenment of the 1700s and 1800s, and to some degree, a reaction against the Renaissance of the 1500s. The Enlightenment was characterized by a strong faith in reason as the best means for understanding humans and nature. The Renaissance represented a reaction against the Church and the initiation of more objective inquiry. This objective inquiry shunned the authority of the Church. In contrast, the Romantic movement proposed that human behavior is influenced by strong irrational, intuitive, and instinctual forces. The reliance on reason, objective observation, and science was viewed, at best, as misguided, and at worst, irrelevant. The good life was defined as following one's innermost instincts. The existential movement emphasized a personal search for the meaning of life. Existentialism also assumes that people freely make choices, that each person is unique, and that each of us create our own meaning in life. Nietzsche's thoughts reflect components of both of these traditions. Why is Nietzsche important to psychology? Nietzsche had a strong influence on Freud. Nietzsche proposed that human nature has two components, the rational and irrational. The rational side desires order and predictability, while the irrational side is attracted to creative chaos, passion, and intense experiences. Nietzsche viewed philosophy as rational lifelessness. He felt that the passionate side of human nature needed to be resurrected. Freud believed that human personality is composed of id, ego, and superego. Freud borrowed from Nietzsche the idea of conflicting rational and irrational forces. For Freud, the irrational and passionate are reflected in the id. The rational is reflected in the ego. For Freud, these two personality components are in conflict. Also, both Freud and Nietzsche believe that the irrational forces are sometimes sublimated by the rational. Sublimation involves the indirect expression of unacceptable forces in a more socially acceptable way. For example, violent sports, like football, reflects the sublimation of strong aggressive tendencies. In addition, Nietzsche said that the rational side of human nature often represses the irrational side. Freud incorporated this idea of repression and made it a cornerstone of his theory of personality. Nietzsche also has another connection with modern psychology. This connection comes in the form of his theory of motivation and self-actualization. According to Nietzsche, the most basic human motive is the desire to acquire power. It is not to avoid pain and seek pleasure, as some of the thinkers of the Enlightenment proposed. Acquiring power involves gaining knowledge of the self. It also involves self-love and learning from negative experiences. Nietzsche famously said, "Whatever does not kill me makes me stronger." This will to power can only be fully satisfied by acting on what one feels they need to do. In addition, Nietzsche believed that the conventions of society hindered the will to power. Freud agreed with Nietzsche that society can have negative consequences for healthy development. Nietzsche called people who approach their full potential ubermensch, or overman, higher man, or superman. Nietzsche's idea of the Superman was embraced by the Nazis, who claimed that the German people were supermen. However, Nietzsche was not a Nazi supporter, nor was he proposing national or racial superiority. What marks a Superman for Nietzsche was fierce individualism, insight, passion, and courage. Freud honored Nietzsche by claiming that Nietzsche was a true ubermensch. To conclude, Nietzsche had an impact on psychoanalysis. For example, Nietzsche's ideas of conflicting and opposing forces, sublimation, and repression became important for Freud and his followers. Alfred Adler's ideas of feelings of inferiority and striving for superiority are derived from Nietzsche's will to power. In addition, Carl Jung's distinction between introversion and extroversion are analogous, respectively, to rationality and passion. Finally, the ideas of the Romantics and existentialists, including Nietzsche, can be found in humanistic psychology. For example, Nietzsche's idea of achieving personal potential is reflected in Maslow's notion of self-actualization.